to be masters of their own fate in their own sovereign state. And just as we have for these past 65 years, the United States is proud to stand with you as your strongest ally and your greatest friend. As I begin my second term as president, Israel is the first stop on my first foreign trip. This is no accident. Across this region, the winds of change bring both promise and peril. So I see this visit as an opportunity to reaffirm the unbreakable bond between our nations, to restate America's unwavering commitment to Israel's security, and to speak directly to the people of Israel and to your neighbors. I want to begin right now by answering a question that is sometimes asked about our relationship. Why? Why does the United States stand so strongly, so firmly with the state of Israel? And the answer is simple. We stand together because we share a common story. Patriots determined to be a free people in our land. Pioneers who forged a nation. Heroes who sacrificed to preserve our freedom. And immigrants from every corner of the world who renew constantly our diverse societies. We stand together because we are democracies. For as noisy and messy as it may be, we know that democracy is the greatest form of government ever devised by man. We stand together because it makes us more prosperous. Our trade and investment create jobs for both our peoples. Our partnerships in science, in medicine, and health bring us closer to new cures, harness new energy, and have helped transform us into high-tech hubs of our global economy. We stand together because we share a commitment to helping our fellow human beings around the world. When the earth shakes and the floods come, our doctors and rescuers reach out to help. When people are suffering, from Africa to Asia, we partner to fight disease and overcome hunger. And we stand together because peace must come to the Holy Land. For even as we are clear-eyed about the difficulties, we will never lose sight of the vision of an Israel at peace with its neighbors. So as I begin this visit, let me say as clearly as I can, the United States of America stands with the state of Israel because it is in our fundamental national security interest to stand with Israel. It makes us both stronger, it makes us both more prosperous, and it makes the world a better place. That's why the United States was the very first nation to rise the state of Israel 65 years ago. That's why the Star of David and the Stars and Stripes fly together today. And that is why I'm confident in declaring that our alliance is eternal. It is forever. Lanetzach. Thank you very much.
The president wrapping up his opening remarks in Israel. He just arrived at the Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv right there. You can see Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli President Shimon Peres, up on stage with him. I guess a sense of how close they'd like to look like they are right now. They're all wearing the same shirt and tie combination.
I know, and the president, they're going to bring him an Iron Dome, actually, near the airport so that he can tour the Iron Dome, one of the first things that he's going to do. Of course, that's an important symbol for the country. And this is just the very beginning, the first stop of what will be a very, very busy day for the president.
And the president said, you know, the United States is Israel's strongest ally and greatest friend. That was the message of his opening remarks. Let's go to CNN senior White House correspondent Jessica Yellen, who is in Tel Aviv right now. Jessica, you were there for those remarks.
Hi, John. Yes, what you may not have heard on air is right when he got off the airplane, the president said to both Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Perez, it's nice to be away from Congress. Those were some of his first words when he landed here. And then he said, good to see you, brother, to Perez. From here, you know, the president goes on to view the Iron Dome, which is this sort of defense system that the U.S. has helped fund for Israel, and a number of other symbolic visits. In many ways, pieces of this trip are deeply, mostly symbolic for the president and for the Israelis, a sign of the close friendship, and not so much strategic. That was the plan initially, but after recent developments with Syria and different news events with the possibility that chemical weapons could have been used in Syria, it looks like instead of a largely symbolic trip, there could actually be some significant news that comes out of his visit here. We'll see.
You know, Jessica, they've got a lot on the agenda. You know, the Iran is nuclear progress, of course, Israeli-Palestinian peace, but it is Syria that seems to be this new development. How much of this meeting do you think will be taken up by what to do about the Syria situation, or how to verify what's happening inside Syrian borders?
I think that this is going to be a topic of discussion that will now move to the very top of the agenda. It was going to be Syria and the possible use of chemical weapons there was going to be on the agenda anyway, but now it's taken on more urgency. This has always been a pressing issue for Israel because it shares a border with Syria, and there are many challenges there. But you have to remember, because of this nation's deep concern about the Iranian nuclear threat, for them, that will always be a burning question right now. And so while the Syrian chemical weapons is important to them, they're not going to let the question of Iran get overshadowed by the troubles in Syria. So that now they'll have two issues competing for dominance. And you know what ends up getting lost in all this is the press for peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians. That sort of could get pushed down on the agenda even further than it already was.
And Jessica, we're looking at pictures right now of the president getting into his car. Benjamin Netanyahu just did. They'll be driving off. There were a lot of smiles there. There was a lot of touching, a lot of glad handing right there. It seems as if these two men want to send the message that they are getting along. There have been a lot of questions about that over the last couple of years.
Well, you know, they're BFFs all of a sudden. You get reelected and everybody loves each other, you know. Absolutely. And I think that you have to remember that the Prime Minister of Israel just formed a very fragile coalition government. And so the president is on very shaky ground here in Israel as well in terms of his approval among Israeli Jews. Many of them are sort of neutral about President Obama. They don't dislike him, but they don't adore him. And so for each man, there is a big reason to show that they are in good with the other guy, to get some credit here in Israel. And so, yes, there is good reason for each to show that all those old wounds are well on their way toward healing. Nobody here is going to pretend that they don't have troubles, but they are showing that they can get along. Keep looking for those smiles. Our thanks to Jessica Yellen in Tel Aviv this morning. We will come back to you over the course of the morning. But as Jessica said, this went from what was going to be a symbolic visit to one where all of a sudden there are urgent matters to discuss, with the specter of chemical weapons possibly now being used in Syria. So we want to go right now to our senior international correspondent, Ivan Watson. Now, he is in Amman, Jordan this morning. And Ivan, yesterday, Syrian state media claimed that opposition forces launched a chemical attack in Aleppo province, killing at least 24 people, injuring more than 100.